So we are officially at the last week of being able to have balance holes, so I thought I'd do a balance hole demonstration video. So here's the hole that needs to be plugged. It's already been sharpened off. Now, most holes, if they've been drilled properly, are going to be beveled a little bit at the top. It's going to have that nice rounded edge. So I just take the next size up drill bit and drill down a little bit. It gives this nice sharp edge. Now, today I'm going to be using Vise CS Hybrid. This is the best quick plug on the market, in my opinion. It can literally harden in less than a half an hour. Now, what some people will do is they'll weigh it out by volume, and that's typically the way to go. You're going to have a cup that might look a little something like this, and you see it's got the measurements on it. But what I actually do, and I've had really good success with this, is I actually use one of the Biggest Loser scales. And what I've come to find out just over the course of trial and error is the hardener to resin comparison is 31 grams of the hardener and 27 grams of the resin. So here's the deal with this stuff. You can't just put them together and start putting your colors in and mix it together and take your time like you can with conventional plug. You have to do this relatively quickly because it's going to start to harden. So you're going to typically put your colors in with just this. Now it's going to give you this nice caramel type color to start. So you're going to think, wow, this is really, really dark and not the color I'm going for. But when we feel like you're at a color that's going to make sense for the ball you're plugging, then you're going to go ahead and add this stuff, and it is going to lighten it up a little bit. But here's how I plug these giant holes. So this is a 1 1/8 inch hole. It's quite large. So I actually do it in two parts, even though it is quick plug. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn on my scale, and I'm going to squeeze in 31 grams of the hardener. Because I'm doing this in two steps, I don't need to put any color in it. It doesn't matter if there's color down in the ball. The only thing that matters is there's color at the surface, because we try our best to match the color of the ball. So I zero out the scale. Now I'm going to do 27 grams of the resin. Okay, cap that off. And now I think here's where some of the issues come in for some people with this stuff is they'll sit here and mix it for a minute, minute and a half. We're talking literally 20 seconds at the most. Also notice I haven't put a dam on yet. That's because I'm not filling it all the way to the top. I'm only filling it up to just above the filler. In a bowling ball, you've got the core, which is the dense piece way in the middle. Then you've got this filler, this outer core, or some people call it the inner shell. And you've got the outer shell, the cover stock. So I've mixed enough, and I'm just going to go ahead and start pouring. And it brings me up just about to the top. I'm going to let that set. This is going to take about 15 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on how hot it is in your shop. So just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Okay, I've got the hole. I have only filled it up to just below the surface. We're talking about 1/8 of an inch below the surface, and now we just have some waiting to do. So here's what I like to do as we're waiting. First, you're going to make an assessment. All right, how many colors are we going to need? We've got some red, we've got some black. So I'm going to use 2 cups for this. But remember, when you go to start mixing your colors with the hybrid stuff, it's not like your traditional epoxy where you can let it sit for about 20 or 30 minutes before you pour it, because it's going to already be hard by that time. So same deal. Now I'm going to make an assessment. Well, I just used a 31 to 27 ratio to get it all the way up to about 1/8 of an inch below the surface. Well, now you figure once I add my dam, I'm probably only going to need probably a quarter of that, honestly. So I got 2 cups going. So we're going to do a little bit of math. So instead of doing 31 to 27, I'm probably going to do like a 7 to 6, right? So I'm going to do 7 parts or 7 grams hardener and do the same thing in the other one. Now that gives me about a 14 to 12-ish ratio when you add both of them together. So there's 7 grams in that one. Take that out. All right, go ahead and do it on this one. Now again, I'm using one of those Biggest Loser scales, and I'm not putting in the resin yet. I'm only doing it with the hardener. Some people, I think, make the mistake they try to mix their colors with the hardener, or if they do it with the resin, you're going to get 2 totally different colors. So do it with the hardener, and then know that once you put the resin in, it is going to change the color. So black's pretty easy. I'm going to put a few drops of black in. That won't be a problem. Trying to match this red might be kind of a pain. It's probably a few drops of red with like maybe 1/2 drop of black. So, and notice I haven't put the resin in yet. Right? I'm mixing all my colors in the caramel colored hardener. That is like super important. Do not try to mix your colors in the resin, because you think, oh man, look at this nice color I got. And then all of a sudden you put the hardener in, which is like adding a caramel color. And remember, still haven't added any resin to that. So that's just going to sit there forever and ever if I wanted it to. So same thing here, probably a couple of drops of red and maybe 1 drop of black to try to match that. I do try to match the colors as best I can. So put a couple of drops in there. There we go. And then maybe like just the tiniest little drop of black, but I really don't want to overpower it. You will notice, especially with the Vise colors, these are the Vise colors, they're very, very thick. So I kind of line the edge of the cup, like, if you can kind of see what I did there. I just put a little bit of black on the side, and I kind of pick from it, like a little bit here and there. So I'll take the popsicle stick and just kind of scrape a little bit from that black that I took, and then start to mix it in. I really don't want the black to overpower that. Always bring the lighter colors in first, and then start to add your darker colors later. It's easier to bring dark out of light than it is to bring light out of dark. If you know you have a dark red, don't start with black and then decide, oh, I'm going to add some red to it. It's just not going to work. Looks like I need a little bit of white. This is probably more of a red tone. So with tones, it's about adding white and black to create the color. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm actually on the side of the cup going to squirt out a little bit of white and have this little collection of white for me to pick from. Because sometimes, honestly, 1 drop is too much. You think, well, how can I do any less than a drop? This is how I have figured out how to do less than a drop. So now I'm just like literally picking from this little collection of white on the side and mixing it in. And white's good to make your color a little more opaque. Right? I'd rather not have it be transparent, so we pick a little bit of this white out. And the cool thing is you're doing this all while this chemical reaction's happening over here. Right? You've got the ball is hardening. All that nice plug is hardening right now. It's obviously tough to see from the camera, but getting pretty close with this color. I'm liking it. It's pretty darn close. Maybe just a little bit more white to make it a little bit more opaque. And again, I still haven't mixed the resin in, so this would literally just stay in this cup forever and ever and ever until I put any kind of resin in to mix with the hardener. And we are coming up on that day. It is almost August 1st, so we know we got to have those balance holes plugged sooner rather than later. Okay, I'm liking that. I'm liking that color. Okay, Now, this is the crazy thing. In all that time that was going on, the plug in the hole hardened. It's ready to go. So now here's the next step. I'm going to bring it over to the drill press. I'm going to take the next size drill bit up, and I'm going to drill down until I hit filler. Okay, I want to be able to see the white filler. Okay, this is going to make the hole much more shallow than going all the way down in, and it's going to give time for the bubbles to escape. That seems to be one of the biggest complaints about CS Hybrid, the plug, is that the bubbles don't have any time to escape. So they get all these air bubbles everywhere, and it looks like garbage, so then they throw it out and they don't like it. So all I'm going to do, bring it over to the press, go to the next size drill bit up, and drill down until I hit the filler, the white filler. Go ahead and do that. Usually I'd have a vacuum on for this, but with the video going, didn't really want the extra sound. Alright, so I've hit the white filler. I've gotten to a point where it's deep enough. I can still see the sides, I can still see the edges. Again, so I've only gone down so I can see the white filler. This is going to give the plug much more time to go up into the surface and actually past the surface, so we don't get those pesky air holes. So now I got to add a dam. So we find a dam that fits. There we go. And now as far as swirling goes, I will take my darker color and lightly dump it into my lighter color and kind of get this nice swirl automatically. But remember, I still haven't put any of the resin into this. So I said it was about a 7-to-6 ratio. So I'm going to do 6 grams of resin. If you don't have one of these scales, I highly recommend investing in one. You can do it by volume on the cups. This takes the brain work right out of it. You don't have to sit there and keep looking, well, how much should I fill? This is where it helps if you can be a little ambidextrous. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually taking both cups, swirling together at the same time. So being lefty and righty, not really a necessity on this one, but, and again, you're not going to mix for more than, we're talking 20 seconds. I think people overmix. They wait for it to be hot on the side, which is what we were taught with this stuff. So here's what I do with this stuff. I take a little bit of the black, I just gently pour a little bit into the red, and then pour it out. You're going to get this nice swirl automatically. Okay? Do the same thing. A little bit of black into the red, pour it out, and you automatically get these nice swirl lines. Like you weren't even planning on it. It ends up becoming this really fun, random thing that, you know, you got to give up a little control for it, for sure. Maybe I want to put a little black over here just by itself. Maybe put a little bit more of the red color back in here by itself. Now I can kind of go back and forth. Do this back and forth thing. A little bit of black, a little bit of red, here and there. And let's see what we got so far. It's always fun to see what it looks like in the dam and then just have high hopes that it comes out well. Hopefully the light's hitting that decently enough for the picture. So now again, it's one of those, we're going to wait about 20 minutes. Maybe I'll give it a little bit longer because this is the finished product, right? I know that on this one, this is what the customer is actually going to see. So I'm going to give this a little bit more time to cool off. The plug has gotten to a point where it is hard to the touch, which is nice, but it's still hot. So you want to feel, is it still hot? If it is, I wouldn't cut it down yet. So we're going to wait just a little bit longer. So we're at a point where it's hard enough. ready to cut down. So if you're fortunate enough to have a plug cutter, they are super convenient. Look like this, and it's going to shave down the plug right down to the ball. Some people use a router, that works fine too. So again, typically I'd have the vacuum on for this so it doesn't spray everywhere, but that's just extra noise that we don't need for the camera. Typically it wouldn't be making this kind of mess, but let's check out what happened.